In today's biased news, global leaders agree to another inadequate climate goal. The UN overwhelmingly votes in favor of a ceasefire in Gaza, and deforestation in the Amazon drastically decreases. Global leaders at COP28, the climate conference in Dubai, have agreed to transition away from fossil fuels after a year of record high temperatures and increasing greenhouse gas emissions. While the agreement did not explicitly mention a phase-out of fossil fuels, it emphasized, quote, transitioning away from fossil fuels in energy systems in a just, orderly, and equitable manner, accelerating action in this critical decade. This marks the first time fossil fuels have been addressed in a final agreement, and it was considered an improvement from earlier criticized versions. Despite controversy over the choice of the United Arab Emirates as the host, the conference saw the establishment of a loss and damage fund, with the UAE and Germany contributing $100 million each. The fund aims to assist countries most affected by climate change impacts, such as flooding, drought, and rising sea levels. While hailed as progress, observers noted that far more substantial funding, estimated between $150 and $400 billion per year by 2030, is required. The conference also saw the commitment of 130 countries to double energy efficiency and triple renewable energy capacity by 2030. Additionally, countries pledged to reduce methane emissions by 30% within the decade. Despite these small victories, the initiatives fall short of curbing global temperature rise to the targeted 1.5 degrees Celsius. An analysis by the International Energy Agency revealed that current pledges would only reduce energy-related emissions by 30% of what is needed by the end of the decade. Brazil, once marked by increasing deforestation under former President Jair Bolsonaro, used the conference to position itself as a global leader in climate change and conservation. Lula announced more ambitious climate targets and proposed a new global fund to pay countries for preserving tropical forests. Despite seeking observer status at OPEC+, Brazil aims to push other oil-producing nations to transition to green energy, even as the country itself plans new oil and gas exploration areas, including in the Amazon. Overall, the conference is considered a modest success, a good direction, but not nearly enough in the fight for the preservation of a habitable Earth. In a historic vote, the United Nations General Assembly has passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution garnered support from an overwhelming majority, with 153 out of 193 member nations voting in favor. This development has exerted significant pressure on Israel and the United States, as they were among the just 10 countries that voted against the ceasefire, while Germany and 22 other nations abstained. To reiterate, just 10 out of 193 states voted against the ceasefire. Simultaneously, reports from US media indicate that Israel has initiated a strategy of pumping water into tunnels operated by Hamas in Gaza. These tunnels have been a crucial component of resistance tactics, used for various purposes such as storing hostages, food, fighters, and munitions underground. While the flooding attempt could have strategic implications, it raises concerns about potential contamination of Gaza's fresh water supply and is expected to take weeks to show any notable effects. As usual, this literal salting of the earth is likely intentional. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees stated at the Global Refugees Forum in Geneva that a major human catastrophe is unfolding in Gaza. Over 18,400 Palestinians have been killed, with approximately 80% of Gaza's 2.3 million people estimated to have been displaced within the besieged territory, according to UN relief agencies. Amid these developments, the Palestinian envoy to the United Nations described the General Assembly vote as a historic day. He highlighted the message sent by the international community, emphasizing that the US could no longer ignore the substantial global consensus. He stressed the collective duty to persist in the pursuit of an end to the genocide against the Palestinian people. In today's lightning round, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has reiterated his opposition to opening European Union accession negotiations with Ukraine, stating that Hungary would block such talks. In a podcast interview, Orban argued that supporting Ukraine should involve geopolitical signals but not full membership, as he believes this would undermine the credibility of the EU. In a successful ambush in the suburbs of Gaza City, 2 senior Israeli commanders and 7 other soldiers were killed by the Palestinian resistance. The resistance continues to win significant victories, making use of historically effective guerrilla tactics. Poland's new Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, was sworn in by the country's president, marking the final step in a significant transfer of power. This change follows 8 years of nationalist rule under the so-called Law and Justice Party. Tusk's appointment has raised expectations of improved relations between Warsaw and Brussels, and hopes for a smoother cooperation with the rest of the European Union. The Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3, a widely anticipated trade show for video game publishers and hardware developers, has officially come to an end. The decision was announced by the Electronic Software Association, which had organized and presented E3 since its inception in 1995. The event faced declining interest from both the public and industry members over the years, as well as safety concerns during the COVID-19 pandemic. The cessation marks the conclusion of over 2 decades during which E3 served as a central showcase for the video game industry. And in positive news for the day, deforestation rates in the Amazon have decreased by 55.8% over the previous year, according to analysis by the nonprofit organization Amazon Conservation. The reduction is attributed to efforts to combat tree loss, particularly in Brazil. Additionally, Climate Trace reported a 56% decline in emissions from deforestation in Indonesia between 2015 and 2022. However, global emissions from deforestation increased by 5% in 2022. Despite the positive developments in some regions, total emissions rose by 1.5% globally, underscoring the ongoing need for urgent carbon reduction efforts. While the problem of deforestation remains, we'll take any wins we can get. That's all for today. We'll be back on Monday with more news. If you appreciate the work we're doing, consider becoming a patron to support the show. All patrons get early access to analysis episodes, as well as an audio version of the news. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.